Welcome to Senhasegura Shorts. In today's video, we will learn more about just-in-time, also known as JIT. Just-in-time is a new Senhasegura tool used to create temporary user for your server or domain. This is extremely helpful when you have users who rarely need to make requests to the environment. Imagine you have a third-party user who very rarely accesses the environment and only uses very quick and simple tasks like a quick validation task. In this case, you don't have to create a unique credential for this user in your environment, which could end up cluttering your domain or your computer if it's a local user. Instead, you can create a temporary user to be immediately used, and as soon as the access is over, the user or credential becomes inactive or disabled. This makes your environment even more secure because it's one fewer credential at risk of being leaked or creating any problems. JIT is perfect for that. Let me show you how it works. JIT is found in Senhasegura main module, the PAM module. This means you can use the same licenses and access groups you find in the PAM module. So, in this example, I have a Linux AWS server with a user called Noah who has privileged access to my server. That means that my Linux sudoers file recognizes him as a privileged user. But now, let's imagine the following scenario. We know PAM and JIT share the same access groups, but I might not want these temporary users to see the Noah credential. I might want them to see as little information as possible in this newly created JIT credential to prevent them from inadvertently using Noah's credentials. So let's create a new credential. This new credential exists only inside Senhasegura, and if anyone tries to start a new session using it, since it's not found in the source host, the access will be denied. So I'll start by naming my credential JIT-Linux, a local user, directly linked to my Linux AWS server. Now, if I go to the JIT settings, I can decide what this user can do with this just-in-time credential. In other words, what actions this user can perform when using this credential in the JIT mode. First, we have to enable it and choose the type of just-in-time. So, this credential will be created now and deleted after use, or enabled and disabled after use. I'll choose to create a just-in-time credential and then delete it. If I'm creating a new credential, I can't leave this box checked because this user has no credential to use or to run tasks, right? So, in this case, I'll have to link it to a user, in this case, Noah. And since I choose to create and then delete the credential, I can now edit this bottommost part. What should you do here? Well, the template here is very similar to the one used to change passwords, where I define which steps create a credential and which delete a credential. I'll start by choosing the SSH plugin, and I'll choose the template I created earlier that tells the platform how to create a Linux user. Different Linux distributions may require different steps. Debian, IX, Red Hat may have small differences between them depending on how your end server has been configured. So I recommend you prepare the right script to receive the JIT actions. So this field creates a user, and below it, I'll add a second template to remove the user. When I make a JIT request, what is going to happen? First, it will start a task, and you will be able to see that in the executions module. That task will be a user creation task, and as soon as you're done with using this user, it will remove the user. Another option is to run a password change request. This would guarantee that the JIT user has a new password before the session is ended. If the user tried to change passwords during the session to access it later, the platform automatically changes this password one more time. This is not necessary here. I won't enable password change executions, but I'll save the changes I've made. Now I have to modify my access group. Remember, the JIT and PAM modules share the same access group. Now you can see the JIT Linux user unable to start a new session, but you can also see Noah here, which means he can start a new session and have privileged access. I have to change that. Go to Settings, Access, Access Group. My admin user is listed inside the limited user group. Let me show you. The Users tab shows the admin user here, but let me change the criteria here. I don't want it to show everything inside the Linux distro. Instead, only usernames that contain JIT- in the name. If I also create a JIT-Windows credential, for example, the user will be able to see it as well. Now that I have added this criterion, I'll save the changes. And finally, I'll validate my access group. On the right-hand side, click on All. Now this screen only shows JIT Linux, and if the user tried to initiate a session, it will be denied. Sessions can only be initiated if the user uses the just-in-time credential. Now go to Credentials, Just-in-Time, and whenever I initiate a session using this credential, it will start a user creation session in my environment before the user can access it. I'll choose to Start Session. I'll be prompted with a message saying that senhasegura is provisioning a credential in this device. And when this is finished, I'll already be authenticated in this end device. I'll run the hostname command. Now I'm in the Linux AWS hostname created earlier. After I finish doing everything I had to do in this computer or using this user, I'll run the command exit. Okay, I have been disconnected, and a task is now being run in the executions module. I'll show you that by going into Executions, List Operations, and here you can see an earlier task to create a new user and another one to delete this user after I was disconnected. I started using this user at 12:21. At 12:23, I exited this session and a new task deleted this user. Well, that was it, and thank you for your time. See you next time.